The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Community TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Hello and welcome to Cape Breton Connects here on Eastlink Community TV. Joining me today is local historian, author, and journalist Ron McDonald. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you very much.
We're very pleased to be in this beautiful setting at the North Sydney Heritage Museum, and one that reflects the diverse history of this community that was founded in 1789, built on commerce. At one time, the fourth largest port in Canada, coal mining export, the fisheries vibrant here, shipbuilding, you name it, this community's seen it come through, and the ebbs and flows. But today we want to talk a little bit about your knowledge of some aspects of the history of North Sydney that some other people may not know. And that involves our American friends, and we know about the time during the First World War, and actually something with a personal connection to you and your family. So maybe we'll just start there in terms of some of the American influences and move on as we journey into some of the more colorful aspects of North Sydney life.
Well, after the First World War, the whole economy of Nova Scotia was hurt because the price of codfish went down to $0.01 a pound. The fishermen couldn't afford to go to sea to fish, and then, of course, the shipbuilding companies, they went out of business because there was 3 of them in North Sydney, because there was no fishermen to buy boats from them. And then I think the deity took a hand. A backbench Republican by the name of Volstead brought in an act to ban the sale of liquor in the United States. And all of a sudden, there was a connection there. The fishermen had something to do other than fish. And the people who worked in shipyards were called on once again to start building boats that would travel and carry liquor to the United States. And this was a thriving business for quite a while.
So we often hear, of course, in Nova Scotia about Barrett's privateers and the seafaring ways and rum running, but a lot of people wouldn't associate that with here and the local community of North Sydney. And I think there's some fringe benefits for those that sailed those vessels,
yes,
were there not?
There was certainly, because the as the trade built up, and remember Newfoundland at that time was a foreign nation too, and our boats began, the small boats especially, began carrying stuff down to Maine early on. Our boats carried about 1,000 cases of liquor at that time. The big ones, big ships that came afterwards carried 5,000 to 10,000 cases. And they would stop outside the 10-mile limit, and they would unload to little boats that put out from the New York and New Jersey area. And our fellas here, they flocked immediately to St. Pierre, where they needed to build warehouses, a warehouse and carry thousands of cases. There was 500,000 cases of liquor in St. Pierre in 1923, for instance. They had all to be warehoused and then shipped again. The Brompton family from Montreal, they could manufacture rye whiskey, which they did in great quantities, but not for local consumption. So they shipped it to St. Pierre and then shipped it again to the United States. Or at least that was said to be, because often they didn't even get it off the boat in St. Pierre. They just signed the license and sent the ship right down to the
and I don't suppose there was any happy hours on board on that shipment.
There was lots of them.
Yeah.
There was one time when American tourists were going in fact, they had every week, they had an election of a king of the tourists, and he presided over a big party that evening, and it culminated at midnight when they washed the king's feet in champagne.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, it's amazing some of the fascinating stories. And of course, as well, our American friends in terms of our role in the protection of the world and democracy and freedom. We also know, on a more serious note, that North Sydney played a key role with the presence of Americans here. As much as they enjoyed imbibing on the benefits of the Port of North Sydney and the people that worked the waters, they also shared the benefit of a safe haven here during times of war and distress.
Yes, they did, and they built airport or brought planes here to North Sydney in the First and Second World Wars. Well, we had another American who helped us a lot. His name was Charlie Ballard. He built the Ballard Block in Sydney Mines, and he really rebuilt the racetrack in North Sydney and made it competitive with any racetrack in the Atlantic provinces or the Maritime provinces. He used to drive a big Packard, I'm told, and he would come out to the racetrack daily just to oversee it. But he made his money by importing all kinds of liquor from St. Pierre, holding it, and he had a roadhouse himself, as they called it, a bootlegging place then. And then he exported a lot up through the United States and even back into Quebec.
So it's just phenomenal when you think of just all the characters and people that really were upstanding citizens as well, and were leaders in the community in their own right, and helped support and sustain it. And at the same time, we're adding to the color and the commentary of history looking back, and some of the things that get lost. That's one of the things this show is trying to do, is to look forward and say, what are some of those bright lights or those light moments, but also the good that's in our community. And speaking of the good, and again with our American friends, when I think of the end of the war and the knowledge, I think can you just reflect a little bit about how the news was disseminated and the role of Americans at the ending of the First World War?
Well, the Western cable office was the spot here which relayed every bit of European information to New York. We were the only spot that did it. And so the day before the World War I was stopped, the message went through the cable office here, and so our staff in the cable office, where my father and mother both worked, they let it out. The news was let out, and North Sydney had a great celebration on the night of November the 10th in 1918.
Yeah.
And the rest of Canada joined in the next day.
And in terms of people celebrating on parade that day, I do believe it was the American soldiers that joined in.
Yes, indeed. They were thought of very highly here.
Yeah, and so that's part of when we look at the heritage of our harbor, and that we consider, the role and function of the Port of North Sydney. We talked earlier in a different episode about the Atlantic Memorial Park and the battery that was there, and the significance of maintaining security over the harbor and protector of the North Atlantic. And so when we look at the role, it's not just been a commercial role, it's been a fundamental one of protecting and serving through the port here. And North Sydney itself, the fact that this whole harbor and the community of North Sydney, the Mi'kmaq this was a traditional land where people lived and transferred because of what actually was a natural attraction for people to come and set up and to settle here. So a lot of interesting factoids that are out there about our community that get lost in history, but places like the North Sydney Historical Society and the Heritage Museum get to showcase this for everyone visiting. And you see with Marine Atlantic now tens of thousands of visitors passing through and coming and having a chance to get a glimpse in the past. Any other little information items or little stories about North Sydney that some people might not know?
Well, we were probably in the first of any of the Canadian ports to have the pre-runner of the Coast Guard. It was run by the RCMP, but it was just boats, small boats that were on guard to try and catch rum runners when they were coming in. And it was a big thing. The rum runners in Jamaica, they paid 50 cents, I think, for a gallon of rum, and it sold here for $40.
Wow.
That's quite a markup. But we had to take the kegs down because they didn't have any kegs in Jamaica.
Well, and I'm sure they were delivered on a regular basis.
Yes, they were.
For the benefit of many.
And the
medicinal, of course.
Yeah. The friend of mine, Milton Mackenzie, who was a longtime pilot and a captain of ships, he was on one of the Coast Guard vessels, the police vessels, and they stopped a rum runner called a Crumhout. And they put a line across her, and Milton and a couple of others went aboard to make sure that she was fastened well. And the people on board, the rum runners, they cut the line, and they cut it twice more and headed back to St. Pierre. And they made it, and the St. Pierre people just turned down any effort that the Canadian government tried to do to extract it. Milton was there for 2 weeks, and he said it was the best 2 weeks he ever had in his life.
The benefits of context and experience.
Fully.
Yes, absolutely. Well, another little thing before we kind of wind up for our viewers to know is that Ron has a notable family member that has served the country of Canada as well and did it with distinction, and that was Flora MacDonald, a daughter of the community of North Sydney and someone that made a difference not only in Canada and the world, and I know her efforts in Afghanistan were spectacular. And so we're very proud of that history when you think there's just so much. We could go on to many other political people that have come from the community, but it is about, you know, connecting and giving back. And any other closing thoughts just about some things our viewers will be interested in?
In our history, we had the longest serving premier in the British Empire, George Murray, who was from North Sydney. He was 27 years premier. And, you know, we had the first Minister of Finance from here too, who was a McLean from Upper North Sydney, and a leader of the opposition, D.D. Mackenzie, who was from here. All three of them were in office at the same time.
And I know many that are from the area and across Nova Scotia and even across Canada would know Bob Muir's service to the area, and having been involved with public life myself, to know with Mark Eiking and others that have all participated and come from the community, very proud of this community and celebrating the community. And we just wanted to share a little bit about North Sydney, some of the past, but you know, that is giving us a foundation to look forward to a bright future. And I want to thank you for joining us with us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So pleased to be here in the community of Dominion, Nova Scotia, and I'm joined by Lisa McNeil Campbell, who spearheaded this phenomenal all-access initiative to take with the Hawks field and make it the Hawks Dreams Field. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa.
Oh, thanks for having me here, Cecil. It's
Listen,
exciting.
I don't know where to start. I'm so excited about this project. It means so much to so many to have an all-access field. So maybe can you just take us back where this started and why, the vision, the dream, and some of the background that will help our viewers understand how important this is, not only to you, but the entire community and the local area.
Sure. So the whole program started, Cecil, back in 2019. My dad passed away in June of 2019. He had COPD. He worked in the steel plant. His name was Walter McNeil. But Dad was all things baseball and community, and he just loved sports. He loved to volunteer. He volunteered with my mom for over 50 years here in Dominion. So that in itself was pretty cool. So when he passed, I was having a really hard time, and as was the rest of my family. So we just wanted to do something in his honor that would kind of help us grieve, and at the same time do something good for the community, because that's what he would want. And we got some community members together, friends of Dad's and family and things like that, and we sat around the table and said, well, what can we do? And the first thing that came to our minds, of course, was the Hawks Field, because it was in really bad disrepair. It was falling apart. And I always would have loved to see people. It's center of town for so long, right? Everything we had
Truly the heart
here,
of the community.
It was the heart of the community.
Right.
Every celebration was here at the Hawks Field. So it was just getting really even harder and harder. People weren't playing on the field. No, there was no baseball anymore, very little baseball. And Dad's mantra was always that, you know, everybody should have a chance to play. It didn't matter if you were the best on the team or the worst on the team. You should just have at least a chance to play. So in order to do that, we had to make it accessible, which it never was before. And there are no other fields around that are fully accessible in the way that this is now. The field itself is accessible. All the bases, as you can see, are inlaid, so wheelchairs can round the bases. We've got plugs going in for motorized chairs. The dugouts are accessible. The new grandstands have pieces cut out for wheelchairs. The walking track has seating every 30 feet for people who they have mobility issues. They like to walk, but they can't go far distances, so they can stop and have a rest.
Thoughtful.
It's really nice, yeah. We have two bocce courts here, it's actually an Italian sport. But it's a Special Olympic sport, and they had nowhere in Cape Breton to play.
And Dominion has a renowned Italian community.
We have a huge
in the
Italian
hall, and
community,
those chicken dinners and all those
yeah,
great things that
yeah,
celebrate the culture of the community.
exactly. And they actually used to play right behind the Italian hall years ago. The members and the community members used to play bocce there, so they're pretty excited to get that back in the community again. Our new canteen building, which is right over there, has 4 washrooms, but 2 of them are fully accessible, so much so that they have adult-sized change tables in them, and they're electronic, so they go up and down the wall to the perfect height that you need them.
And these are things people wouldn't think about
No.
when you say all access, that
Yeah.
that literally caring for people,
Yeah.
to have them included as equals, it's
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I can't help but notice this beautiful splash pad that's
Yes.
being created right next to the Hawks Club, where
Yeah.
they not only for social reasons, the Hawks give back so much to the
Oh my
community over the
gosh.
years. I just can't, you couldn't add it up right now. But one of the things they was 100% behind this green field.
Well, we wouldn't have started it without their support. You know, we wanted to make sure that they were okay with us doing that first. So aside from our councillor Darren Brookschwager and yourself, you were mayor at the time, we needed to get CBRM on board, but the other bit was the Hawks Club.
So the one thing about a dream field, dreams come at a cost.
They do.
And it's not cheap to do all this, to be all accessible
No.
for all persons and abilities. So can you explain to the viewers, like, how much did this cost? The price tag, aside from all the sweat, tears,
Yeah.
and emotions and enthusiasm, there is a real financial cost, and I think all levels of government came together because the community led the way.
That's right. Well, it started out what we thought was going to be about $1 million project ended up being $3.5 million.
So $3.5
That's where we're
million.
at right now.
Yeah.
And we're still not quite finished. We still have other things to add to it. So
And I notice this is not only all access, it's all hours, because there's these
Yep.
massive light standards going up.
Yeah.
It's not finished yet. They're still finishing work, but you had
Yep.
your official opening. The community at large came together for a celebration that we
They
have
did.
not seen, and the pride and the literally joy of everybody was evident in all the social media, but especially throughout this community, putting new energy and life into it, didn't
it really did. It brought life to the community. Everyone is so excited. The parade was the longest parade ever in Dominion, and there were no floats in it. It was just all people. It was children and adults. It was just everybody.
Now I have a special guest joining us, and that's Tony McNeil. Tony, not only wife, mother, cheerleader, champion, and author, nonetheless, of Hecky Gets to Play to go with this special field. But before we get into the book, can you introduce our other guests? I know Lisa's with us, but we have some special guests with you.
Yes, certainly. This is Sheldon Sacre. So Sheldon is the co-chair of the Hawks Dreamfield Society, and this is my other daughter, Carrie McNeil.
Welcome to both Sheldon and Carrie, and I know this has been a huge team effort from all of you. And Tony, you know, this has been a very emotional roller coaster at times, but a very special opportunity to honor Heck in the way that you've been able to. And at the same time, do you want to explain about what was the driving force behind your book?
Well, the whole, I guess, idea of the field was accessibility and inclusiveness. So we were after getting a uniform for a mascot, and we figured, well, I think maybe it would be a good idea if the mascot could really interact with the children. So Hecky was born with one wing shorter than the other, and he had glasses. And of course we know that a hawk needs his eyesight in perfect condition to get his food. So yeah, Hecky wore glasses, and he had an issue with the wings. So we figured if he was going to learn how to play ball, he was going to have some special coaching, and that's what the book is all about. It's the interaction of children with disabilities trying to learn how to play ball, and with the social aspect of it and inclusiveness and everything. Yeah, Hecky does get to play ball.
And Hecky does. And how much would Walter have enjoyed this moment and to celebrate and see his family come together. I know lots of tears along the way, but I know there was a lot of fond memories and thinking about his passion and love for the community. And you worked with him, if I got Lisa, it was like 50 years plus, like volunteering, not just in marriage, but giving back to the community. Can you talk about your involvement in the community together?
Well, from the time we were married, well, Walter grew up here and he always volunteered anyway. He coached kids, he played ball, he played all kinds of sports, but whenever there was anything going on in the community, he joined in and helped with it. He was a founding member of the Dominion Community Hawks Club as well, and their mantra sort of thing was everybody gets to play, and they did some fundraising all through the years, and they donated the monies back for children to have uniforms for sports. They donated money for bursaries for the kids coming out of high school. They helped people that had medical issues and they had to travel, and they would donate money for that, and like different special equipment. There's a young man in the community here that loves the outdoors, and they helped buy him the two-seater bicycle so that he and his caregiver can go all over town and enjoy a bicycle ride like other people can.
And I know in all of that effort, everyone's always been focused on how to help others out, how to bring more people in, how to include more people, how to care for more, community caring for community and raising things up. But the other thing I love about this is open not only all access to all abilities, but to everyone to come to Dominion, to this field of dreams that's become a reality. And a little bit more about the committee. You and I know it's Sheldon and Carrie and Lisa, but there's a broader group of people. You've been doing fundraisers, concerts, draws. Can you explain a little bit about the team you've been part of?
Well, when we started this project, it just seemed like people wanted to be part of it. We didn't have to go out and sort of vie for people to come. They just came on their own and they asked, if there's anything we can ever do, we want to be a part of it and help out. So we developed the Hawks Dreamfield Society, and we've had people from all different walks of life. And when we had our meetings, for whatever they were good at or they were really interested in, we'd put projects with those people and just let them go to it, and they'd work out the details, and we'd all get together again and see where everybody was on their particular part of the project, and that's how we rolled.
Well, I want to say congratulations to you and the entire team, but also a heartfelt thank you for all your commitment and dedication and seeing this through to reality. And as the finishing touches come, there's only going to be better days ahead. And as Techie takes flight, so too must this segment. And I want to thank you for joining us for Cape Breton Connects on Eastlink Community TV. So folks, today we've seen two different examples from North Sydney to Dominion about people that have played a role in their community and making a difference. From a historian, author, and journalist to a community that is bound to make sure that everybody has access to recreation and sport in a way that will allow people to come together without any barriers. We've also learned that Prohibition in the U.S. provided economic opportunities for the people of North Sydney that they never realized at a time when they needed rejuvenation. To the people of Dominion who are so proud of the Hawks Dreamfield being a reality and again will make a difference for generations to come, sport, recreation, but again the focus on all abilities. Very happy to be part of making connections for Cape Breton that are making a difference in everyone's lives, whether historical, today, but more importantly for the future.